Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp as we once again look at 10 games coming out for the Nintendo Switch in this upcoming week. In terms of dates, we'll be going from the 8th of August up to the 14th to see if there's anything worth grabbing in that time. So without further ado, let's see what's coming up. The first real game of note then for next week comes out on the 12th and is a game called Volta-X, which is selling for £17.99 and actually looks quite interesting. I've just watched the trailer. So you basically take on a team, you have to build up a base, and then you need to pilot a huge mech robot called a Volta-X, with you being able to customise your loadout, adding new weapons to this mech, and you can then take it online, taking on other players in PvP battles. It looks like the base building will give you a chance to upgrade your team, researching new skills and leveling them up by way of a branching skill path. One thing that I'm not too clear on, having just watched the trailer and by reading the eShop blurb, is whether the battling is turn-based or more action-based. But either way, it's certainly quite a unique premise, and hopefully it manages to pull it all together. Next game also coming out on the 12th, a really interesting looking one this, a game called Metamorphosis. This is a first person adventure game where you as the protagonist wake up to find you have transformed into a bug overnight. This is heavily inspired by the work of Franz Kafka, who himself obviously wrote a novel called The Metamorphosis, or Die Verwandlung if I've got my pronunciation correct, probably not. Obviously, due to the fact that you are now a small creature, you will be going around your house in that first person view, and things that would be mundane and ordinary to you in everyday life would now be very much bigger and pose you quite a problem. And these, I'm assuming, will make up the environmental puzzles that will be the basis for the gameplay. I don't know how much it's going to take from its source material or whether it's just the basic idea and the name that have been taken, and at £22.49 it does push itself past the impulse buy category, but it also has such a unique premise that I'm sure many of you will be as intrigued as I am. And the next game is called The Ambassador: Fractured Timelines. This is a twin-stick shooter set in a fantasy land where you play as a character called Gregor, who's a newly recruited member of the Eternal Fellowship. The main gameplay mechanic seems to be based around the ability to stop time, and it promises fast-paced strategic combat, 5 environments which encompasses 2 timelines and 55 levels, an armoury of weapons, magic trinkets and armour, 20 hidden journals to find, and a horde mode which is unlockable after completion of the main campaign. It has a nice pixel art style, reminds me in some respects of Moonlighter actually, and sells for £13.49 or your regional equivalent. And next is a game called Escape from Tesis, which sells for £8.99 but does have 20% off if you pre-order, and obviously that discount ends on the day of release. This is a Metroidvania that uses a pixel art style and sees you exploring the land of Tevis. There are 20 plus upgrades to find scattered across the game world, of which is made up by 5 different biomes, and you need to use these new weapons and abilities to try and fight your way to the surface and escape the planet. This is a game that's been out on Steam for a couple of years as far as I could see, and it does seem to be about double the price unfortunately on the Switch as it is on Steam. I don't know if there's anything included in this version that isn't in that one. Doesn't look like it, to be perfectly honest, so even with that 20% discount it's still a fair bit more expensive. And next, releasing on the 13th, there is a game called Darkestville Castle, which is a point and click adventure game where you take on the role of Demon Sid. Sid spends his days terrorising the people of Darkestville. That is until his nemesis Dan Teapot hires a group of professional demon hunters to try and banish him. This is another game that's been out on Steam for a few years, 2017 I believe, and it seems to have a very positive reception on there, with people praising its puzzles for not being overly obtuse, as well as mentioning that the humour is of a good standard. It sells for £11.99 or your regional equivalent, but there is also a demo available on the eShop if you want to have a go of that first.
Nothing. And he has a bunch of friends too. Or at least plenty of enemies. Dan Teapot,
Don't try anything funny, demon.
Walrus.
And next we have digital card collecting game Faeria, which is developed by Abracam and published by Versus Evil. This game was developed for desktop computers back in 2017. Now I've watched the trailer and I've also tried to read up on the rules of this game, and I'll be honest, I was struggling to get my head around it, so maybe if you have played this before or are a fan, you can let me know how it works in the comments section. So it's a card based strategy game as far as I can see, but it says it takes place on a living board. I'm still not quite sure what it means by that. I think you lay the pieces of the board down as you play and almost shape the battlefield as you go along. You can play against the AI of course, but it also supports online play, which is great news I'm sure. And if you are a fan of this particular game or card collection games in general, I'm sure you will get a huge amount of enjoyment out of this one. And the next game is Volta-X Malice Unlimited. Now Volta-X Malice is already on the Nintendo Switch, and although I haven't played it, I know it's a visual novel based on the idea of an X-Day where crime reaches an absolute maximum and you are trying to solve the mystery behind it. I think they're called the Adonis Organisation, something like that. I might have got that slightly wrong. Like I said, I haven't played it, although it is one that's always interested me. Now this unlimited version, as far as I can see, includes an interlude, an after story and some additional play modes, but I think it is still the same game. If you are a fan and I'm wrong there, please do correct me in the comments section. I couldn't find any clear information anywhere to clarify one way or the other. This is selling for £44.99, which is about £10 more than the base game. I do really like a good visual novel, especially thriller or psychological horror based ones. The last one I played that I really enjoyed was Raging Loop. So I'd be intrigued by this one, although I think I would wait for the physical version to drop in price before picking it up. Next is a game called Bite the Bullet, which is selling for £13.49, although it does have 20% off of this price up until the 20th of August, which is about a week after its release. This is a roguelite RPG shooter where it says every enemy is edible and you must shoot and eat your way to victory. You need to eat enemies to power up your character and your weapons. You can play in single player or with a friend in local co-op, which is always good for these roguelite games. There are 4 different classes, 50 different levels, and a variety of customization options for your character with a branching skill path. It says that your body type will change depending on the enemies you eat, and you need to look at the nutritional information before eating them. I think if you take away that bizarre side of it, it sounds fairly standard for a roguelite in that your character will morph or change depending on what they do or what they collect, or in this case what they eat. And I'm assuming there'll be some sort of permanent progression that you have, as well as the runs that will come to an end. The fact it has co-op is a big plus. A lot of these don't, unfortunately. And then you have Double Kick Heroes, which is published by Plug-in Digital. This is a mix of shoot 'em up and rhythm game. You need to survive 30 levels of enemies who are trying to attack you as you try to get away in your Cadillac, or Gundalac as it's called in this game. You will be able to unlock new gear and upgrade your car, and it says that the levels each have their own music track, which are composed by a legendary video game and metal composer. Only the power of metal can save you and your band, according to the blurb, and if you're interested it will cost you £19.79 or your regional equivalent. And finally for the week then, we have a game called Shaolin vs Wu-Tang, which is a one-on-one fighting game heavily inspired by the kung fu and martial arts films of the 70s and 80s. This is a passion project that was made by just one person and draws heavily from the aforementioned films. It's selling for £9.99, it's already on Steam and actually has very positive reviews over there. For me it comes down to whether it's just about paying homage to those films or whether it can back that up with some sound fighting mechanics. Anyway, that's it for another week, 10 games highlighted there. It's strange, when I first looked at this week, just at the thumbnails on the coming soon page, nothing at all stood out, but having seen some of the trailers, Metamorphosis definitely interests me, and a couple of the others look decent, although that's the main one for me. Is there anything that interests you? If so, let us know in the comment section below. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.